Hello, thank you for joining us on our Ace Doran January safety call. With me today is Jason O'Brien, our Hours of Service Manager, and I'm Dale Stanek, Director of Safety. I'd like to thank everyone for coming and joining us on this call. First off, I just want to make sure everyone had a good holiday and we're ready to get started this year. We're looking forward to a lot of big things here at ACE. And one of the things I want to mention is we do have some goals this year from the Safety Department, and I'd like to mention some of those to you right now. Our first goal is to have a claim reduction by 25%. We want to eliminate our claims by 25%. That's both cargo and accident liability claims. Reduce our unsafe violations by 50%. So that would be our speeding, lane restrictions, other moving violations, 50% reduction off of that. And then to eliminate our CSA alerts on the ACE BME DOT number. With that, I would like to give a shout out to Enos Byler. This past weekend, we had the Bennett Symposium. He was named Driver of the Year for 2017. Enos does a really great job for us. He's been here at ACE since September of 2005. Works out of Terminal 58, and you may have seen him. He has that copper Volvo. Gets a lot of likes on our Facebook page. So, moving on to our, and if you have a question, please hit *3 so you can get in the queue. We will take questions at the end of the call. *3, please. All right, so starting off with our scores for BME, ACE BME. On our unsafe driving, our score is now at 58%. It increased 1% from November. December hours of service was a 1% increase to 69%. Vehicle maintenance stayed flat at 82%. Driver fitness was at 0. Crashed moved up 1% to 46%. And drugs and alcohol, there was no score, was at 0. We did have 39 clean inspections for the month. That's a great job for everyone who did have clean inspections. The reporting period just ended last Friday, so new scores should be coming out for January, probably Saturday or Monday at the latest. On our government-secured wind side, I'd like to go over those scores right now for January. We had 6 clean inspections. I thank everyone for getting 6 clean inspections. That's great. On the unsafe category, we have 1% is our score. It is up from 0. On hours of service, we had a 14% increase, up to 38%. That was from 24. It appears we had a couple of issues with logs on some form and manner. Vehicle maintenance, we had a 2% decrease, went from 28 to 26%. Good job, everybody. Driver fitness at 0, and crash had a 1% decrease down to 1%, and then, of course, no drug or alcohol numbers since we don't have any. Thank you, everyone, for that. The next thing I would like to discuss is our claim updates. Since we do have a goal of reducing claims by 25% during our calls each month, I do want to go over our claim activity so everyone's aware of what we're having and ways to prevent that. So in order for us to reduce our claims by 25%, that roughly means we have our quarterly claim dollars really can't exceed about $125,000 for us to hit our target. So it's roughly just a little over $40,000 a month in total claims. And so far for the month of January, we've had $36,000 worth of claim activity. It appears had a combination of both cargo and liability claims. We've had on the wind side of the house about $3,500 worth of cargo claims. It appears we've had some nicks and marks on towers and some chip on a blade. On liability side, it appears we do have a liability from the wind division. Looks like a tire came off a trailer and hit a passenger car. Looks like we only have $1,000 on that. On the BME ACE side, we have a little bit more activity here. From a cargo standpoint, we have roughly $20,000 in cargo claims so far. Looks like we had some damage to delivery from some of the product that when we attached it to the trailer got some damage. We did have a driver who lost control at the end of December. Sideswiped another vehicle, went into the ditch. That cargo, looks like we had some claims on that. That was $14,000. On the liability side, it appears we have 2 claims right now. One of our drivers was parked on the interstate during an accident up ahead of them, and the vehicle behind them claims that our driver rolled back into their car and backed into them. And then the other accident we have is one of our drivers was in the McDonough yard and was backing his trailer into a spot and ended up damaging another owner-operator's tractor for almost $10,000 worth of damage. So obviously, when it comes to claims, you know what you need to do. Make sure stuff is secured properly on your trailer. Make sure it's covered if it needs to be covered. On liability side, especially this expensive accident in the McDonough yard, get out and look when you're backing up. If you're not sure, you need to get out and look as much as you need to in order to avoid hitting stationary objects. All right. So moving along here, have Jason O'Brien here. I want to talk to you a little bit about e-logs. ELDs have been in place now for about 6 weeks, and we've had some questions or concerns with personal conveyance. Jason, what have you seen?
Hi, Dale, and thanks for having me here today. I'm excited to be able to try to help get this cleared up and so we can kind of stop this before it becomes a bigger problem kind of than what it is right now. Since the implementation of ELDs, there's been an extreme amount of misuse with the personal conveyance duty status. As we communicate with you guys and our owner-operators, it's important to kind of understand what that's to be used for and what it's not to be used for to protect our CSA score. So to kind of give you 2 examples of misuse from a driver, what happened was a driver delivered his load on Friday afternoon, then he placed himself in off-duty personal conveyance and drove an hour for about 50 miles to travel back to the company terminal. That time should have been recorded as on-duty driving, and he was out of his 14 hours, so he kind of just stopped, went off-duty, then switched into personal conveyance to finish up that 50 miles. So that would be a not approved use of personal conveyance, and in doing so, that incident did end up costing 7 points on our CSA score. On another day, the same driver, after that Friday after he unloaded, on Sunday afternoon, he left his terminal and placed himself in on-duty personal conveyance. It drove for 2 hours and 35 minutes for about 163 miles to a town where he loaded the next day. So he was positioning himself closer to the load on personal conveyance, and that, again, is another thing that you're not able to do with that. That should be regular on-duty driving time. Again, we did talk about how that first incident cost us 7, but through the week, in his past 7 days, he actually had 3 violations for personal conveyance. That was falsifying his logs, and we got 7 points for each of those for 21 points on our CSA because of the misuse of personal conveyance. So what personal conveyance is designed to do is it allows for you guys to use your truck for short commutes to and from en route lodging or restaurants, or a driver's commute to and from the terminal if it's your normal work location and you report to a normal work location each day and come home from there each day. Using the information that is the interpretation and personal conveyance and the definition of on-duty is the corresponding interpretation found in 395.2, the conditions of personal conveyance that can be extrapolated. The vehicle must be unladen when you're using personal conveyance. Movement is of a short distance solely for personal use. The driver would be relieved of all work and responsibility from performing work. The driver is relieved of all duty and responsibility for the care and custody of the vehicle, its accessories, and any cargo or passengers it may be carrying, and the driver must be at liberty to pursue activities of his or her own choosing. So no work should be done until the driver is ready to return on duty. Please remember, it's just not meant to extend your day, and it's not meant to reposition yourself closer to a load or drive home after getting offloaded at a receiver. So that's kind of how personal conveyance can be used, and hopefully we do better with that in the future, as it hasn't worked out so far.
The one thing I've had a couple of drivers ask about, or they've told me about, is that they'll use personal conveyance to drive their truck over to a repair shop. One, is that acceptable?
If you're going to be driving to a repair shop, you'd want to have that in on-duty driving, and the reason that is because it's considered work on the truck. For it to be personal conveyance, you'd have to be not doing any work-related activities whatsoever.
Yeah. So if they got to the shop and the mechanic drove the truck around, that could be considered off-duty or personal conveyance since they weren't in charge of the truck. But anytime they're moving it, doing work on the truck, that should be on-duty and drive time.
Well, if you drop your truck off at the shop, you should log off your ELD. If they do any test driving of your truck while you're logged off, once you get your truck back and it's repaired, once you log on, it'll ask you, it'll basically say were you driving while logged off for X amount of miles, and since the mechanic would have been driving during that time, you're able to say no. It still gets recorded in the system, but it doesn't get put on your drive time since they were driving.
Okay. Can you also talk a little bit about what happens if, for some reason, your box goes down? What procedure should we follow? Does the driver just automatically go to paper logs? What have we have in place for that?
Well, if your box is to go down, the first thing you want to do is give me a call or Lori Stewart here at Ace, and we would be able to probably fix it with you right over the phone. Don't wait. I often have drivers that'll call me and they say they've been messing with it for like an hour.
Yeah.
So if you're having trouble, give us a call after 5 minutes if you haven't figured it out, and we'll probably be able to speed that up a lot for you. I don't want you to be in a situation where it has been an hour and now you really need to go and we don't have time to try to fix it with you over the phone. If Lawyer and I determine that the box does need to get fixed or repaired in some way, it's important that you give us that call because we'll need to send out your last 7 days for you, so you have that in a PDF format in your email. If you're going to get a DOT and you're just running a paper log and we weren't able to send you those last 7 days, that would, of course, be a violation there.
All right. Thank you. I just want to go back. I forgot to mention where I spoke about we want to get our unsafe violations reduced by 50%. In order for us to make that happen, we can only have about 1.5 unsafe violations a month. And during the month of January for the BME Ace side of the house, we had 3 violations, 1 speed and 2 lane restrictions. So we really need to pay attention on those traffic signs and make sure we're obeying them, especially when we're going from a speed zone of 65, 70 down to 55. For the most part, those are marked, and we're notifying you that the speed is going to reduce, and you need to be at or below that limit the time you cross that sign. That's why usually law enforcement officers are right there looking to hand out tickets. So once again, if you have any questions, make sure you hit *3 so we can get your name and truck number and get you in the queue so that we can take your questions or safety tips. I do have a couple of gift cards that I will be handing out at the end of the call, so *3. Moving along to safety meetings, we do have a new requirement.
Well, Dale, if I may interject, okay. There was just one more thing that I wanted to bring up about logs with the drivers. If you're on e-logs, we only keep those in our system for 6 months. So if you need those for tax purposes, you can call and I can send them to you in a PDF format. Or drivers do also have the availability to go to connect.randmcnally.com and enter your driver number for your password and username, and then use the company code BGME-PROD, and you'd be able to do it yourself there on their website. With it being kind of tax time, I thought it was important to mention that, and I just wanted to let them know.
Yeah, that's true. We have had a couple of people ask about getting logs from the first part of last year. Unfortunately, those are gone now, so they're only on for 6 months, as you mentioned. So thank you, Jason. Moving along back to safety meetings. In our January newsletter, we sent out the new requirements for safety meetings. We're no longer just doing 2 a year, it's now quarterly. The upside of that is we are going to pay the bonus out at the end of the quarter within 45 days, so everyone can get their money a little sooner. So that's good news. The stipulations that you have to do 2 in-person safety meetings now. So we've got quite a few safety meetings lined up here over the next 6 to 8 weeks here. I just want to make sure everyone is aware that we are doing quarterly meetings. So in order to qualify for the safety bonus, you have to have 0 accident or cargo claims, 0 CSA points. Obviously, take the meeting either in person or online and have at least $15,000 worth of line haul revenue for the quarter. We will pay out 1% based on the line haul, and we'll do it within 45 days. So with that being said, we do have some on-site meetings scheduled here. I'm going to cover what we have coming up in February. This Saturday, we will be at the Petro in Youngstown, or actually Girard, Ohio there. The meeting starts at 8:30. The following week, we will have one here in the Cincinnati area at the Great Wolf Lodge. Same start time at 8:30. On February 13th, there's one scheduled at 10 a.m. at Hilton Garden Inn in Green Bay. On the 14th, 10 o'clock at Hampton Inn, Madison East in Madison, Wisconsin. February 15th, 10 a.m. in the Homewood Suites in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And then on the 24th of February, we have 2 going that day, both starting at 8:30, Holiday Inn, Knoxville, Tennessee, and at the Holiday Inn, Morton. So we look forward to seeing everyone who can make those meetings, and you get your in-person safety meeting completed. If you're not going to be able to attend an in-person safety meeting in February or March, I strongly encourage you to take the online meeting. It's roughly 18, 20 minutes long. There's some questions built into the video as you watch it, things like 5 questions. You can do that at Driver's IG. I think so far I've only seen about 4 Ace drivers have taken this part. So if you know you can't make the February or the March meetings that are coming up, please, I encourage you to go ahead and get that done now. We are looking at putting some in-person safety meetings for the second quarter too, looking at doing some sites that we traditionally don't go to, but I will let you know, we'll let you know when we get those lined up, all right? So I do want to mention, if you are in an accident or as a cargo claim, that you really need to do the following things. Render aid. Make sure you check out the other occupants of the vehicle if you're involved in a liability accident. Call 911 and then call the claims department. So if you have any claim, both cargo or liability, please call 855-330-1558. It's important that you do it while you're at the scene and while everything's fresh, and our claims department will give you guidance on what to do at the time. So, Jason, do you want to talk a little bit about maintenance inspections? It's the last day of the month, and I'm sure we have all that coming in the door right now.
Sure. With maintenance and inspections, one thing that I would just ask drivers to do is, a lot of time, like right now it's January 31st, and we have a lot of paperwork coming in today. And the inspections weren't completed today. They were done like on January 15th or January 21st. And it would really help me out as far as processing all the inspections that come in if we would send them in just like the day that you would get it done, rather than just sending in the paperwork just before the deadline. So if you guys could do that, I'd really appreciate it. It would really help me out. And then anytime, of course, when you're up for your 90-day inspection, please go ahead and also send in your maintenance report for that same time period, and we will go ahead and get those loaded into the system for you as well. Regulations do, of course, stipulate that we have to have 12 months of vehicle maintenance on file for your vehicle, and that's why, of course, we do that and have that in the computer.
Yeah, I know in orientation I always make sure I mention it to our new guys coming in that they get their maintenance done early in the month and get it turned in. That way you're not at the very end along with seems like everyone else, and you're not waiting long time in the maintenance or inspection lines. The other thing is make sure you turn in your 90-day maintenance too when you're turning your inspection, so we have both. That way we don't have to run you down. So *3 if you have any questions or want to make a safety tip, that's greatly appreciated here. It does appear we have a couple people in queue. Looks like we have Charles Malinsky on the line. Hello, Charles.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, how are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
We're doing well. What do you have for a question?
Yeah, I got a question on the personal conveyance.
Okay.
Because I have a house in South Carolina and I have a house in western Pennsylvania. And I drive my truck from here to there, and I'm not under a dispatch or under a load, and it's 650 miles. Is that supposed to be on duty?
Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, with that, Chuck, it's because of the distance because of the distance that is involved, it would be recorded as on-duty driving if you were driving that distance. And it's just because in the regulations it specifies that personal conveyance is only to be used for a short distance, and 600 miles is going to be a little bit too far for the DOT to probably believe that would be within the rules of the guidance of the regulation.
I don't know. We just made 2 trips across to San Diego, cross country down there. 650 miles is a short distance.
No, yeah. I know to us it sounds like a short distance, but to the DOT it wouldn't.
Yeah, unfortunately the guidance doesn't give us a mile. It just says short distance, so it's left open to interpretation. So, but
yeah.
That's a good question, though. I think we've seen a couple other drivers doing that where they finish a load and they've used their 14 hours for the day, and then they just go into personal conveyance and keep on driving, which obviously you can't.
Okay. Because I did do that, all right?
Right.
And I called McDonough and asked that question of somebody in the log department over there if I could do that, and they said absolutely yes I could, and that's the way I did it because they told me that. So, but I won't do it again. Yeah, it was for Tina.
Okay. Yeah, we'll clear that up because we definitely don't want any of our drivers in a situation where we get a bad inspection.
Yeah, because when I was bobtailing too, I didn't have my trailer with me because I have 2 trailers. I had one here down here and I had one up there. So I just I just went up there and I stayed off for I don't know. I was off for probably a week or a week and a half, and then when I left to go load, I just took the trailer I had sitting up there. So that's why I had the question rather than drive my car up there, because I wanted to bring my other trailer back down here eventually anyway. So. And that's why I just bobtailed up there instead of driving my car.
Yeah, I think the situation you could get yourself in is if you used personal conveyance and went from South Carolina to Western Virginia, and then you had a load, just a little ways from there. I think a DOT officer would look at that as you're putting yourself in a better position to get your load, and that's where it can get tricky. So.
Yeah, I can understand that, but I don't know how it's. If you're not under dispatch, though, I mean, you're not dispatched. I know the officer doesn't know whether you are or not. I mean, because they don't believe anything you tell them. So
that's true. So just to be safe and not get a bad inspection, it's best not to be in personal conveyance for a long distance. So, but that's a good.
I read it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was reading something, an article last night that said they're considering changing some of the rules on personal conveyance on laden vehicles because of like straight trucks and stuff that can't unload and are using, and I don't know whether that's true or not, but that's just the article I read last night.
Yeah,
I don't know whether you've heard anything about that or not.
I saw that same article probably last week also, where they're considering that, but it's just in the early stages of consideration at this point.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Well, thank you for calling in.
All right, thank you.
Good question. All right, next on the line we have Leanne. Craig?
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, thank you for calling in.
Yeah, I have a question for Jason, and it's one that we talked about earlier, and I was wondering if you ever found out about the VIR when teams do a VIR at the end of the day, at the end of their shift, if we both finish our shift on the same day, the second one cancels out the first one, and that it looks like that driver didn't do his or hers. And I'm wondering if Jason found anything out about that.
Hey, Leanne, this is Jason. This past weekend, I actually was able to figure that answer out. And
good.
Both drivers do still go ahead and do that. It might look like it doesn't get recorded, but in the computer side of things, in the back end, it still shows up as being there. The reason for that is if you did your inspection and said everything was okay, and then somebody else your other team driver was driving, and then they could get a violation based upon your inspection, and that's why both drivers still go ahead and do the inspection.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I also have a question regarding the maintenance that you guys were just talking about. Yep. I understand about the 30-day, the 90-day maintenance record. I see that as a sample in the handbook. But were you also referring to a monthly inspection, or just the daily inspections?
No, we were just talking about 90-day inspections.
Okay.
Now,
okay.
In the paper log books, they used to have a monthly inspection report, and that's when we used to do them. It'd be every month. But with e-logs being the predominant logging device now, an easier way for us to track your maintenance reports is when you do your inspection to turn in the maintenance report at the same time. Whereas with the paper logs, it was easier to do it monthly. So that's why we've gone from that 30 days to 90 days. So if you heard 30 days, that's where it might have been from.
Okay, so where do I find a form that doesn't say sample on it? Do I have to log on to that?
It is available on Driver's IG, or if you'd like, once we're off the call here, I'll just go ahead and email you a PDF.
Well, that'd be great. Because I'm looking at the driver IG or driver's IG, and if you could PDF it to me, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I sure will.
All right. Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you, Leanne. Thanks for calling in.
All right. Looks like we have another caller available to us. If you do have any questions, it is *3. Go ahead and hit *3 so you can get into the queue and we can see you. Next on the line, we have Doug Harden. Doug, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well.
Just recently learned out in Wyoming that when they have the high wind warning up and it says no light trucks, there's not a weight scale they go by. If you're 5,000 to 80,000, if the wind's high enough to blow you over at 80,000, then you still get a fine for being on the road at that high wind warning.
Yes, that is true. Wyoming does do it that way. A lot of times, too, if you ever have an accident out there and you're off the roadway, they're going to cite you for too fast for conditions, too, because you made them come out and pull you out of the ditch because, in their opinion, you shouldn't have been out there. But, yeah, you're right. That's a good point. Wyoming does have very strong wind gusts.
We recently took a load out there to Utah, and they had the high wind warnings out, and it didn't say it was closed or anything. They just had the high wind warning. It was 50+ mile-an-hour winds. And then as we was coming back from Utah going to Denver, we had stopped in there, and I talked to them about it, and they said it didn't matter if you was 5,000 or even 80,000. If the wind pushed you over, then you got the citations.
Yep.
They said usually when it's 50+, they recommend you just pulling over, period.
Right.
And I was unaware of that because I thought it was for light vehicles. And they said it.
Go ahead.
I was unaware of that because I just thought it for maybe 10,000 or 20,000. they said whatever the winds up there can tip over, and they said they seen them tip over heavier loads than that.
Yeah, if you think about it, if you're a van driver, you got a big sail on the back of you, and depending which way the wind's blowing, it gets the broadside of the van and just push you right over. So that's, you know.
Yeah, I could see a van or something, you know, with walls on it or something like that get pushed over pretty easy. Yep.
So you got to really use sound judgment in those conditions and pull over and, you know, wait for that windstorm to subside and then wait to get out of there. So that's a good point.
Yeah. And then I had a question. Now I heard Jason talking to that lady. Was there a 30-day inspection also?
No, but we need, when you get every 90 days when your inspection is due, you need to turn in your maintenance report at the same time. So it's a 90-day inspection. So turn in the sheet that shows that, you know, you changed oil, tires, all that maintenance that you've done on the truck.
Well, I just recently serviced my truck and bought some new tires. Do I need to turn that in and then another one in when I do my 90-day?
Nope, you can. The 90 days is a summary sheet, so we'll just take that from you. Just make sure you list that activity on it.
All right.
I think you've been here about, 30 days now?
Oh, yeah, something like that.
At least 3 weeks.
Yeah, okay. Well, so far I'm enjoying it. I really like what I'm doing for you guys, so.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, great to hear that, Doug.
So we enjoyed getting orientation.
Well, that's good to hear.
All righty. Star 3 if you have any questions or if you want to make any safety tips to anyone else. All right. Well, it looks like we don't have any additional callers in. Like I said, Star 3. Wait a minute here or two. If not, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. So, like I mentioned, we do have safety meetings coming up. If you can make it, I strongly encourage you to go ahead and attend any of the meetings that we have coming up in February. In March, off the top of my head, I know we're going to have one in Owensboro, Cleveland, and then we will do the one at the truck show there in Louisville also. So, all right. Well, it does not appear anyone else is calling in with questions or safety tips, so we'll go ahead and sign off. Jason, any last words?
I just want to let all the drivers out there know that I appreciate everything they do every day. It is a hard job to do, and they get it done.
Thank you so much. I just want to close on the note. Let's just make sure we're paying attention to signs out there, especially speeding. Speeding makes up over half of all of our unsafe violations. We can get that under control. I know we can hit our goal of reducing unsafe by 50%. So, everyone, with that being said, everyone be safe, drive smart. We will catch you next month on this safety call. Thank you so much.